I felt it went really, really good. I think there's some absolute gems in there.
Welcome to the Front Porch with Brian Beaudry.
I'd like to welcome today's guest, Elliott Vigil from Elliott Consulting. Elliott, welcome to the Front Porch.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited.
All right. Let's start with the basics. Who are you? Where are you from? And if you're ordering barbecue, what's your go-to? I saw that you were interested. You're a barbecue connoisseur, if you will.
Absolutely. So, Elliott Vigil, been in the rental equipment industry for over 25 years. Started with United Rentals, did fairly well. And all of us know when you do a great job, what happens to you? You get demoted. Now, they call it a promotion, but that it's really semantics. It means you work a lot more, you make very little more, and you have a lot more stress. So it's a demotion. And I got demoted and shipped out to Las Vegas when Las Vegas was at its absolute peak in 2007. And then the good thing is I was literally sitting in the driver's seat when the 2008 economy collapsed. And Vegas was number one hit, Florida was number two, and Scottsdale, Arizona was number three. And it was interesting to me because when that collapse happened, I learned a ton. And I started with another company. I started with Ahern Equipment, put in 15 years with them. And I've had the luxury of working in rental from almost all 50 states, traveling all over the place. Got to go to Florida. I'm getting ready to go to Australia, where it's not even called rental. It's called for hire. So I'm extremely excited to learn as much as I teach when it comes to the rental industry.
All right. We didn't get to the barbecue really, unless
well, no, I'll give you the barbecue, but that I don't know if this podcast is even long enough for that. So here's the thing with barbecue. And a sales rep once said to me one day, he goes, "Do you want to go out for barbecue?" And I said, yeah, I'll go out for barbecue. And he says, "Well, okay." And I said, "Well, what kind of barbecue are we going out to?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's all different." He goes, "No, all barbecue's the same." I'm like, oh, Memphis barbecue is not the same as Nashville barbecue. Kansas City barbecue is not the same as South Carolina barbecue. And Texas barbecue is completely different altogether. So it all depends on my mood when it comes to great barbecue. I'm a big fan, specifically in and around Memphis, for some barbecue ribs. Okay. I am a huge fan of Black's Barbecue down there in Texas. And I also like Jay Killen's barbecue, specifically for the burnt ends, which is just short of man candy.
All right. Well, that's a great guide for people out there.
What kind of barbecue
I was going to say,
like?
I know people don't like it from those regions if you say it's all the same or you compare their region to a different region.
It's blasphemy.
Yeah.
So perfect. What's your favorite barbecue? Where do you go?
I am kind of I kind of agree with you. I eat a lot more pizza though, so I kind of have the same rule of it's all good. It just, you have to have different ones at different times because you got different cravings at different times. It's not all.
Yeah, there's days where a good Chicago deep dish is a godsend, and then some days you need that paper thin, good New York style where the slice is like absolutely colossal, and each one of them has their purpose. I agree with you.
Exactly.
So,
all right. Well, let's go into history. Let's go even further back than you went before. Do you remember the first thing that you wanted to be growing up?
I do. So my dad worked for Rockwell International here in Colorado, and Rockwell International did a lot of work for the federal government. Okay. They also did a lot of work with a little company called NASA. So if you look at the original space shuttles, there's a logo on them that says Rockwell International. And my dad worked in the model shop. So he made all the prototypes for everything or anything that was a one-off. And I thought my dad was the coolest guy in the world because he made spaceships and he made satellites and he made things for NASA. So I wanted to be either a space pilot or a spaceman. I wanted to be an astronaut like Neil Young. And I wanted to get out, and I realized that that would have been the coolest thing in the entire world. I loved the stuff that my dad built, and he would bring home things that were scrapped parts, and they were the coolest things on the planet when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like that might be a job where dad's always coming home with some really neat stuff to play around with.
Yeah, but the thing is, you could never figure out what they were. You know what I mean? Like he came home and it was just a metal cone. And sure enough, that metal cone was for splicing lasers, but nobody knew a lot about a laser when I was a little kid in the early 80s. Like it wasn't as hot. Like now you got them to play with your cat.
Yeah. I was going to say, maybe your dad actually interacted with aliens and was bringing their stuff home. Maybe that's really what was going on. He just
I can tell you that I know for a fact that my dad's job was machining plutonium warheads. So plutonium is a bell, and he had to do stuff like that when they were making prototypes.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll notice that I have eyebrows that kind of glow a little bit green. That's why. You thought it was the reflection off of your backlighting? Nope, it's all my eyebrows.
Perfect. All right. Well, you mentioned that you wanted to become a spaceman. You do not seem to be in space or a spaceman. So, like, how close did you get to living that dream? And like, when did you realize maybe I should look for other things?
I realized reality set in when I was not the world's greatest student. But the biggest one is I have a severe level of dyslexia, to a crazy level. When I was 7 years old, I was no longer allowed to go to public school. So when your dyslexia is so bad that they don't want you in the school, so I had to go and they kicked me out, and it broke my heart because as bad as it was to go to a different school, the worst thing is at 7 years old, your friends matter. And I lost all of my friends and got to hang out with people that I didn't like and I didn't understand.
Yeah, that doesn't.
And at that moment, I kind of came to the realization you got to be pretty wicked smart to be going to the Air Force Academy or going to NASA. And I realized I didn't quite have that mindset. So I had to figure out how to outsmart the system and figure out something else to do.
All right. So we're outsmarting the system. We're figuring out how to outsmart the system early.
Absolutely. And I did.
Wait, how did you outsmart the system back in those days?
I got my first sales job. Mm-hmm. And my first sales job was my mom won a gift card to Costco or Sam's Club or one of those places. And she won the gift card. It was $500 back in the day, which is still a fair amount of money, but back then it was a ton.
I'd take it.
And she went in, and we had never bought stuff in bulk. So then it wasn't large containers. It was you had to buy flats of everything. And so my mom went in, and she's wandering around. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with a flat of green beans. You know, when you got to think about you're going to eat green beans every week for a month. Well, being a little kid, bored with my mom in the store, I went over and I brought back a case of Bubble Yum bubble gum. And I said, I want this. And she said, absolutely no. It'll rot your teeth out. I go, I don't want it for me. I want to sell it. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm doing the math. It's 24 packs. The 24 packs are selling for $6, which means that it's coming back and, it's about, and I did the math on the whole thing. And she's like, wow. I'm like, yeah. I said, I can sell all these and make some money on it. She goes, if you think you can sell them and make money, go ahead. So I took all the gum to school, sold everybody packs of gum for 50 cents a pack, made some money, made $50 and it only cost me $6. And told my mom, let's go back to the store because she was going to use the second thing of the gift card a couple of weeks later. And lo and behold, I bought a bunch more gum and then somebody ratted me out. And lo and behold, I was going to have to get expelled from school for selling gum.
Dang.
And then I learned how to sell. And when I'm sitting in the principal's office, true story, I'm sitting there. And let me tell you, there's nothing like a mother's disappointment because her little boy's getting expelled for selling gum. And she, in a roundabout way, was the one who helped buy it.
I was going to say, she's my dealer, though.
She is my dealer. She's my original supplier. Yeah, she's my... And as I'm sitting there in the principal's office, my mom's disappointed. And it was like... And I'm getting ready to... I said to the principal very plainly, as a little kid, I said, the Boy Scouts are allowed to sell the world's finest chocolate. And the Girl Scouts are allowed to sell cookies. And lots of times there's candy that's being sold by the PTA throughout the school. Am I being discriminated against because I'm an entrepreneur? And my mother looks over at him, and it was that moment of, and he said, "Don't ever bring it to school again." I said, "I won't." But I didn't get kicked out of school for 3 days, which was a big deal when your mom works and she couldn't figure out how to take care of a little kid sitting at home. So it worked out pretty good for me. And I realized there was multiple levels of sales, not just the sales of the gum, but the sales of the principal, making sure I didn't get thrown out of school.
Yeah. I mean, you had to initially pitch your mom on this business idea. Then you had to sell.
There were lots of good
gum.
sales pitches at that time.
All right. So you were that kid. I talked to like Russ Hicks. I don't know if you know him, but he was mentioning that he was that kid selling stuff in school as well.
Absolutely.
So I would have been one of the customers. I wasn't really, I'm not really entrepreneurial.
There we go. But look at you now.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. When I was watching you in some other videos I've seen you in, you mentioned a key to sales is coachability, and you look for people that have participated in sports because they're used to coaching, performance, feedback, all that kind of stuff. Were you in sports as a kid, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was in youth football, youth baseball, little league baseball. I was in wrestling. I was in sports, like every sport you could possibly imagine as a little kid. And I kind of settled on when I got
I didn't want to like pigeonhole you into football because that was the first thing I was like.
Yeah, no, I definitely I settled into football once I got a little bigger, just because I kind of filled into that spot. I wasn't a great baseball player. You get nailed by a few balls, and all of a sudden, it's not as fun as you think it is. I had really good eye-hand coordination, but I really enjoyed football because I was a bigger guy. I'm 6'2", 250 pounds, and I was relatively strong. So you had an innate ability to kind of push guys around, which gave you a little bit of advantage. So I kind of fell into that early.
For sure, it's a lot more fun when you're the big guy.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it's not just when I say coachability. I think it's also coachability in just about anything. I think coachability in musicians. You know, musicians to me are very coachable. Even cheerleaders, things like that. It just has to be somebody who understands that some days you win, some days you lose, but the game is never over and the season is longer than one play or one game. And I think that is absolutely critical anytime somebody talks about it. It's not just athletes. I think it's just somebody who understands the process. If you don't play a lot of sports, I watch people where something goes wrong at work and they make permanent decisions to temporary problems.
Yeah.
Where athletes can normally bounce back, or musicians or cheerleaders. You know, cheerleaders fall a million times and they just get right back up.
Yeah, it feels like that. Feels like we could use more coaching just in general, where it's like, yeah, that's something that you really only get through extracurricular activities of some sort. It seems
absolutely, 100% agree with you.
Interesting. All right, so again, did you ever have that desire to be a professional athlete, or were you just doing it because it's like I just like doing this?
I would have loved to play. If I could have played in the NFL, game on. I played a little bit in college, and I'll tell you, once you step onto the field and you think that you're big and tough, I told you, that was one of my benefits. And 6'2", 250 pounds, and I'm hitting the gym on a regular, and then you step onto a field, and there is a 7 foot, 380 pound offensive lineman, and he is not very easy to move.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have like a specific story of one of my favorite things is there's a podcast I listen to, but they always have people call in and say, when is the day that you realized football was not for you?
The day I realized football was not for me is they had in college, they had a red shirt, so running back, that everybody was touting was the second coming. He was going to change everything. Fastest kid alive, runs like a freight train, knocks people over, and they touted him pretty big. And so I'm over middle linebacker. I got a beat on him. and I know the play. It's a fake, it's a reverse, and I know they're going to pitch it off to him, and I'm like, I'm going to light him up, and I'm going to welcome him to college football, and he's going to feel what it's like to play on the college level. And I'm looking forward to it because can't hit him hard, but you can give him a stinger. And I was going to make sure he got a stinger. And so everybody knows the phrase, keep your head on a swivel. And I was like a heat-seeking missile on him, and what I didn't see is they changed the play, and they had a pulling guard. So the guard comes from the other side, and I didn't see him because I'm looking in the backfield, and I'm too busy spying, and I'm not seeing this guard that's running right behind the offensive line. And he came along and rolled both my knees, and I squared up and hit the ground, and I realized football ain't for me.
Nice. You went to University of Northern Colorado? Am I
No, I went to Colorado State.
Colorado
I'm a
State.
Rammy.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were cool, and you were in my conference of. I went to Eastern Washington, but
Yeah,
you guys were.
no, I wasn't
level
quite
above.
that cool. Yeah, I had to go to a school that was a little bigger and a little tougher.
Yeah. I was gonna say you are the FBS level. So all right. So how did you get into the rental industry? You're playing football. You've got this entrepreneurial background, but how did you fall into rental?
So it's kind of funny. So I was in school, and I wanted to, once I wasn't going to be playing football, I got my degree in education. I wanted to coach high school football, and I wanted to be a history teacher. That was my dream job. That's what I got my degree in. That's why I went to Colorado State. I was locked in. Right when I was graduating, Columbine happened. And Columbine kind of changed it. I had things that I saw in school, and I was like, you know what? Like, there's a lot of distractions where I'm trying to make a difference in these kids' minds. And I realized one of the biggest things is how they were treated at home. Is no matter what you say as a teacher, and is how big of a difference you want to make, if the parents at home are undermining what you're trying to build, it's hard to make a difference in a kid's life if the parents are saying your teachers are all idiots. And so I decided, you know what, maybe teaching isn't just right for me. Not only that, but I realized that when they offered me a whopping $42,000 a year, and my student loan debt was about that per year, I was in a pretty awkward spot. So I went into doing sales. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to educate people. I'm going to coach them. I'm going to teach them about products. And my job is to help customers along to find the best solution for them and their company. And I worked really, really hard at that and had a couple of great sales jobs. And one of the companies I ended up with was Zepp Manufacturing, which is a big Fortune 500 company. If you go into any Home Depot, all of the products in Home Depot are Zepp. And I worked for Zepp Manufacturing when they said they were going to release all of their lines into Home Depot. And we were dead sure that would end our careers because everybody would just go buy it off the shelf. They wouldn't have to get it from a sales rep. Mm-hmm. I sold to a lot of big accounts, everything from regional bus places for car wash stuff, all the way to a lot of food, from Wendy's and things like that, where I sold in places where they did food sanitation. Yeah. And lo and behold, one day, one of the reps he left Zepp Manufacturing, and he went to go work for one of his customers. And his customer was United Rentals. And he went over there, and within 6 months, and Jimbo Tompkins is still in the industry. He actually works for Wagner Equipment in Colorado. And Jimbo Tompkins was an absolute beast at United Rentals. And so they were blown away that a soap salesman could dominate the rental industry. And so they asked Jimbo, they said, hey, do you know any other salespeople that are even half as good as you? And Jimbo says, I know a guy. So Jimbo Tompkins got me into the rental gig. And I went down, interviewed with Chris Burlog, so senior vice president for United Rentals. He was a regional manager here in Colorado. Interviewed with him. He had me take all kinds of tests and caliper tests and disc assessments. And then he said, you're a salesman. I'm like, yeah. And so they hired me on, and I went to go work at a recently acquired, they had done an acquisition of Bronco High Lift. And so the team was old Bronco High Lift. They had become part of United Rentals. And so when I started there, it was a very interesting thing because they were not all big fans of United Rentals or the leadership that came down from United Rentals. So when I started on board, they were not happy that they were told who to hire. And so, for lack of a better term, I was the black sheep of the family, and they didn't want me there. And so my career started off really crappy in the rental industry. I did not have business cards because my manager, Steph, would not submit over the form to get me business cards for the first year that I was there. So I had perforated cards that I printed at my house.
I was gonna say, so you're like going back to being in school and getting sent to this school that you don't really want to be at, and they don't seem to really like you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, I'll give you one. I absolutely, a lot of people, they try to avoid pain, conflict, or challenges. And I'm the exact same way. 100% I'm that way. And then I realized as I sat back, as I got a little older, every time I got challenged, I got defined and I found my purpose. And it really became a big one for me is that when I realized things were terrible at United Rentals, not because of United Rentals, it was because of Bronco High Lift and how the acquisition went. I have nothing against United Rentals, but that woman, and she later got fired, made my career an absolute living hell. But if it would have been easy, I wouldn't have learned all the things that I learned that I get to share now, and because I had a degree in education, I actually wrote down all of the things that were going terrible. And I learned from every one of them and I grew from it. People are like, oh yeah, you're so successful right now. It's probably because I failed more than everybody listening to this combined. And I kept notes on how bad I failed.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because it seems like, you have that opportunity of like, this really sucks. Why do I want to be in this industry? What makes you decide, no, you know what? This is the right place for me. I'm like, as an industry, it's just a wrong place for like who I'm working for.
100%. And for lack of a better terms, and just kind of expand on what you already said, Brian, is that every one of us, talking about coachability, rewinding a little bit, we all, if you played in sports, you had a bad coach. We all had a bad school teacher, a teacher we hated. And the interesting thing is it doesn't mean you hate school or you hate football. You just hate that coach. And so for me, I didn't hate the industry. I actually loved the industry because of the customers. Like, I resonate with blue collar guys and gals. I love people that create and build. And I loved hanging out with people that weren't afraid to make something happen. Where a lot of people, for me, when I was growing up, my dad, like I said, was a machinist. He built things. And I respected the hell out of that, where I saw other people and they were like, well, my parents, an attorney or an accountant. I'm like, oh, what did you bring home from school? You don't bring anything home from school when you're an accountant or an attorney, except for paper.
You really shouldn't.
No, you really shouldn't. You're exactly right. And so my dad brought home cool things. And I realized to this day, I love bringing home cool things for my job or even hanging out and looking at equipment. It makes me so excited. I'm still
good.
a
I'm
kid.
glad you made that connection because I was thinking like, this guy really likes to be around a bunch of cool equipment, and he seems to have grown up with a dad who brought home a lot of cool equipment.
Absolutely, 100%. You're spot on.
Okay, well, in 2022, you enjoy the rental industry, but in 2022, the company you're working for gets acquired. It's something that happens a lot around the industry. I look at the industry news and I feel like, wow, there's another acquisition. Wow, another one. Take me through the process for you as the person who's, now the business you're working for is getting acquired. What's that like for you?
Can I be blatantly honest with you?
I only want you to be blatantly honest with me.
It was absolutely brutal. I hated it.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was so brutal is I think for certain people at Ahern Equipment, Don Ahern and many of the upper executives touted, like prided themselves. I have video of Don Ahern saying, I will never sell out. And even if I did sell out, it would never be to United Rentals. Like, they are my arch rival. I will never, ever in a million years sell to them. And after spending 15 years working my butt off for that company, I made sacrifices. I booked deals and I covered my phone. I'm an idiot. Literally, my wife went in and we have one baby. Took us years to be blessed with her. And on that day, I sat in the waiting room covering my phone and talking to customers. And where everybody else takes time to be with their wife or be with their kids, I was on, like, when she went to sleep and the baby went to sleep, I sat outside the hospital. I could have sat there and held my wife's hand or been in the same room. I ran outside and I covered customers because of how much I believed in Ahern and believed in what we did. And when the company sold out to United Rentals, I had just gotten back from vacation. I hadn't taken vacation in like 4 years. It was brutal. And I got back
just
from
I go on vacation one time and you people.
Yeah, and it was literally like, so I get back and I got back like November 2nd or 3rd, and they announced it on like November 14th. Like, so I wasn't even back for a week, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, we want to let you know. And the thing that hurt me the most is I made a mistake. And I will tell you right now, I learned quickly that there's people that you associate with at work. And I honestly would call them my friends. Like, I trusted them. I went to their house. We did things together. We spent weekends together. And when United Rentals bought Ahern, people were jockeying to keep jobs, and they justified it with, well, I got to take care of my family. And if I have to choose between helping you get a job or guaranteeing that I get a promotion, sorry, bro, you're on the streets. And I watched people where they walked in and talked terrible trash. They did not encourage United, like they would shove somebody under the bus if it meant them getting an opportunity with United Rentals. And I thought it was the ugliest thing I ever saw. And I hated it.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing went through. United Rentals kind of ghosted me for a little bit, which respectfully, they didn't know what to do. I was a very high paid, I don't blame United Rentals. I was a very high paid sales trainer for Ahern equipment.
Yeah.
And United Rentals said, we don't really have that position. We don't know how we're going to make you fit. And we don't know how we're going to make you fit with the kind of money you make. I said, I get it. I told my wife, I said, they're not hiring me. She goes, you sure? I said, no, I'm positive. And she said, okay. I said, the local guys cannot justify someone of my revenue, and they don't need to have somebody that travels all over the globe helping them. She said, okay, what are you going to do? I said, I'll reach out to all the other rental companies. And I reached out to H&E. I reached out to Herc. I reached out to all these different rental companies and said, let's have a conversation. And I got bored quickly. And so one day I'm sitting in my house and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start putting out training videos. And my wife's like, for who? I go, probably nobody. I said, I'm going to put these videos out. I'll put them out on LinkedIn. I said, just so that I am helping. And I put out my first 3 videos, and the third video I put out, I took a screenshot of it, blew my mind. 100,000 views on my third video that I ever did.
That's wild.
And lo and behold, my phone rang the next day, and this guy says, hey, what do you charge to come down and train sales teams? That was my friend Andy. And Andy from Stewart and Stevenson called me up, and he was like, come train my team. I didn't have a business license. I hadn't, and that night at 2 o'clock in the morning, Elliott LLC is because at 2 o'clock in the morning, that was all I could think of. And so I created the business, and it turned out to be the most amazing thing. Great people like Andy who supported me and helped me, all these early people, the Taylors, that said, hey, we're willing to give you a shot. And now that I'm in year 3 and I'm global and I'm working with some of the biggest OEMs, the biggest rental companies in the world, I would have never guessed this was what was going to happen.
So it all came out of just like, I want to help. You didn't have any plan whatsoever. You just like wanted to post some videos.
Well, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, and if you ever looked for a job, you ever looked for a job? Like you sat down and you're like,
oh, I've looked for jobs I've been fired so many times.
Yeah, and I can see that about you.
I seem fireable. Yeah,
but
that's true.
But you're sitting there and you wake up in the morning, you're motivated, you're driven, you go to the job boards, you find opportunities, you ping your resume off, you write a couple of cover letters, you tighten stuff up, you ping off resumes to this person, you make a few phone calls. And most of the time, if you started at 6 a.m., which I did looking for a job, you're kind of done by like 10, 11 o'clock. And
yeah, they only put out so many jobs like
absolutely. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, do. And I was like, you know what I need to do? I just like, there's somebody out there that could use some advice. Rookie sales rep that needs help. And so lo and behold, I made a couple of videos and threw them out. And one of them was as simple as, here's the things you need to know when calling on a job site. That was my third video. I said they can be massively intimidating. Here's some piece of advice. And all of a sudden I look down, I'm like, there's 87,000 people that watch this video. I'm like, wait a minute, this is LinkedIn. This isn't TikTok or YouTube or this is LinkedIn. Nobody's on LinkedIn. How the hell did I get 87,000 views in a week? And people are like, these are great. Love the videos. Thanks for helping. I'm like, okay. And then I was just like, okay, well, you can't make any money. LinkedIn doesn't monetize.
Yeah.
If I would have done that video on TikTok, they would have sent me $1,000.
That would have been nice.
That would have been nice, but I didn't get a dime. And so I said to myself, all right, well, I got to go find a job. And I woke up the next morning and my phone rang. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Hey, that's nice. So anyone out there looking for a job, just make a video. And obviously by your third video, you will find a new career. That's the lesson I'm taking.
Sure. You know what? I'd run with that, Brian. I just say, you know what? That is the answer. Sure.
All right. You continue to put out videos. Is this now just kind of like a symbiotic thing with your going out and coaching people? You just need to also produce content, or is it just something that it's like, oh yeah, I have a thing that I want to share with everyone. Let me just share this.
I have no idea. I have a very disciplined regimen, and I am a big one of, I hated sales training with a passion. And anytime they said, let's go do sales training, I was literally the first person that said, hell no. And the person would walk in and they would drag stuff out. They didn't add any value to us. They didn't tell us anything new. And the biggest thing is the majority of them had never been on a job site. They never gotten their boots dirty. They had never sold and tried to talk to a blue collar worker who goes and flicks his chaw out, and you're trying to convince him to buy a $300,000 telehandler and talking to him about return on investment. Like, it is a completely different market. And it pissed me off when people would pretend to know the market and they just didn't. They didn't understand what rental was, where it's all about the relationships and it's repeat customers over and over and over again. And every day you have to prove yourself. If you've got an amazing Xerox machine, you sell it once and you never hear from somebody again. Your realtor can be the best salesperson in the world. They sell you that house. You're never buying another house from them. Where in rental, you're only as good as the last delivery, the last repair, the last pickup, and the last invoice. And the problem is there's so many people who have very, very similar products and very similar services. You have to hustle at a level that people can't wrap their heads around. And so it's funny to me is because anytime people talk about rental, they're like, well, it's extremely transactional. No, it's extremely interactional. And if you don't know how to talk to your customers, if you don't know how to care for your customers, somebody else will. And it warps my mind because I see companies and they're like, oh, we sell equipment and we're super special. And then they take one of those sales reps that sell equipment and they put them in the rental side And they don't realize the level of judgment and hustle you have to take care of customers in rental. I mean, it's just boom, 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 boom. It makes for a very, very different environment. And so when I got into it, I was like, I'll make content. And the content I'm going to put out is stuff that I wish somebody would have told me. And it was hilarious. This past week, I was with JLG. I'm in Charlotte. And literally the guy walks over to me and he says, I love your videos. He goes, I would have given anything if those videos would have been available 10 years ago in my career. I go, you and me both. He goes, so why do you put them out? I go, because there's some young kid out there who's fresh out of college, fresh out of high school. He was a driver and now he's in sales. He was a mechanic and he needs to make more money because his wife's pregnant.
Yeah.
And his company's not willing to bring me in. Great. I don't make a dime, but if I'm not helping, I suck. Because nobody helped me when I started in this industry. And so I'm forever in debt to the universe to try and help other people succeed. And I don't make a dime off of LinkedIn. Like they haven't called me up once and said, hey, can we give you $20? I don't have any sponsors. Like I don't sit in my studio and go and get $50. Like I don't have a single thing that anybody's ever given me. Like nobody sends me a check. I do it because I genuinely give a damn.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it also, connects to your whole point about everything being interactional. And it's like, look, that's being interactional. That's building a connection with that person who's seeing your video, and like 10 years down the road, it's like you can connect with them. And I mean, you could say it's business related, but really it's just about helping. And if it happens to work out to where it does benefit you business wise, great.
I will tell you the majority of my business, 90% of my business is all referrals. So my first video had Andy Hudson giving me a call, but then my next 5 clients were all referrals. And all the business I get now, it's all people networking.
Yeah.
It's Wayne from Point of Rental. It's you. It's people that sit down and they're like, hey, I think this guy's worth a damn. Give him a call. It's not the videos I put out. The videos I put out, I'll tell you who they help. All the people that don't get help from the company they work for.
I like it. All right. Now, 3 years from, your start in video and creating your own business and all that, you've gotten to the point where you're speaking at the ARA show, and you're just like, you seem to be on everything. I've seen a lot of ARA shop talk posts, and you're in several episodes. How did you get involved in that? And
Josh Nichols.
Are you like an official co-host? I don't know how that whole thing.
Yep, that was exactly it. So here's how the Shop Talk podcast. Josh Nichols and I were kind of talking one day, and I said to him, I think there needs to be an ARA podcast. And he's like, the ARA, they're interesting on how they kind of create stuff, and we're going to need some approvals, and we don't have a budget. And I'm like, look, I'll pay my way, you pay your way, and let's make it happen. And because of how much Josh Nichols loves the industry and he genuinely wants to help like me, he and I met down in Florida. I paid to fly down there, paid for my way, paid for extra hotel, paid for extra stuff. And he and I sat down and we did an interview. And then the next time I flew to Atlanta and we did another one. And every time I paid my own way, to do those first few episodes for the ARA, just because I wanted to help and put out content like you're putting out right now, probably cost me upwards of about $6,000 to $7,000 out of my own pocket.
I was gonna say that sounds expensive, man.
It does. It is expensive. I had to, when I went out to the ARA show and got to do the future of equipment rental, and I sat down and I think in one day, me and John, once Josh Nickel left the ARA and started his business. I'm working now with John and doing some podcasts with John, and we sat down at the ARA and I think we recorded 6 or 7 of them in a day. It was just an absolute marathon. And then we recently did another one where we recorded like 3 or 4 of them in a day. It gets really brutal. And so we do all that. The fun one is now I get to do things like, I'm getting ready to come first week in November. I'll come to the Point of Rental event, which I'm really excited.
Right.
I get to go to the AED, which I think is going to be a big one. A lot of dealers and, things going along those lines. I now do a lot of the regional ARA events. So I get a lot of speaking engagements all over the globe, which I think is an absolute hoot because I love.
Yeah, I keep seeing your face in my email with all these regions saying like, Elliott's going to be here.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I got Florida coming up. I got Michigan coming up. I got Tennessee coming up. I got the Northwest Rental Conference coming up. I was running down the list with my wife the other day because I'm making gifts to give away to people. And so she's like, well, how many gifts do we need to buy? And I gave her the list and she's like, good Lord. I'm like, right.
So what's next for you besides just globetrotting in general? I know that you had said in an earlier interview that like you had the goal of being a speaker at ARA because initially like you were kind of like not on that level. And now it's like, now I am on that level. What's the next level for you?
Great question. So the big one for me is I set a few goals. One of my big ones was I wanted to go international. And it was kind of funny because I dabbled up in Canada quite a bit. Went up there and worked with some rental companies in Canada, but I didn't, in my mind's eye, that wasn't international. That was just north of the border. Love our Canadian friends, but that wasn't international to me just yet. Exactly. And all of a sudden I got calls down from Australia. And I think that's absolutely awesome. I've got companies out in Germany and England that I'm talking with right now, which I think is going to be awesome. And some of the biggest equipment manufacturers on the planet, we are now deep in negotiations and talks where they're looking for assistance in coaching and guiding. And I am absolutely honored to be working with a lot of amazing companies. But still, my funnest thing in the whole world is I get to work with single location. And they're like, we're thinking we're going to hire our first sales rep. Can you help us? Absolutely, yes. To, today alone. Hey, we've got 400 sales reps. Can you help us? Absolutely, yes. And it's just, it's so much fun because you wake up every day and we all need a little variety in our day. And this job has a lot of stuff and variety is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like that you've got plenty of variety going.
Plenty of variety going on. But
do you ever get to take the family and extend a little stay or no?
So I will at the Florida. I'm not taking the family down to Australia. My daughter, she's a smart cookie. She is teaching herself via Babbel or one of those apps. She's teaching herself to speak Hungarian. And she has made the decision that she wants to spend time a couple of weeks next year in Budapest, Hungary. So nice. I asked her if she want to go to Australia, and she looked at it and said, can I take that week that we would spend in Australia and can I go and do 2 weeks in Budapest? And I said, if that's what you want, then that's what we'll do. But we've got to budget our resources, so we don't get to go everywhere. Got to be smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into other things, I want to play a game with you. We'll call it Vigil or Vijac. I didn't have a great name. Your name doesn't work great with my yes or no thing, so it's, Jack and Jill kind of, it works. If you agree with the statement or it's true, say Vigil. If you would disagree with it, or if it's not true, say Vijac, and then I need a reason. All right. Vigil or Vijac, you've been known to cry at movies.
Vigil. You can't
is there
watch.
A particular type?
You absolutely cannot watch Gran Torino and watch him get shot at the end when you know he's riddled with cancer.
Gosh, spoiler alert. Dude,
I'm going to tell you right now, that one just $1 million baby. I cried. I'm not going to lie to you. I cried. And it's funny because it's Dirty Harry that makes me cry. Like, he knows how to make some great movies. I don't cry at a lot of them, but I love it when somebody lives their absolute best life. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I cry at movies.
Yeah, I like those, and then I like seeing like a little like redemption from someone who seemed like they were like not great for a while, and then it's like, oh, actually, it turned out that they were, you know, trying to hide something that it's like they're trying to hide their feelings the whole time.
Well,
but
give
they
us a
actually
movie.
had them.
Give us one of your favorites.
I mean, I don't know that this is going to be the example of those, but let's see. Dang, now I don't remember the names of the movies. What's that Kevin Costner one? Oh, Field of Dreams. I like that one.
Field of
just
Dreams
the,
or
just the one to have a catch.
Dances with Wolves.
That one.
That's
was
a
good
Kevin
too.
Costner
Oh,
movie.
actually, now it's like a bunch of Pixar movies because those hit hard. Those are like,
Dude, there are some good Pixars.
I watched Inside Out while we were moving with our daughter, and it's like, oh, this is a little too close to home. I don't like this at all.
Yep. There we go. I love it. All right, what's your next one?
Vigil or Vijac? I shouldn't have done this one. You've cheated at a board or card, or you cheat at board or card games.
I don't now. I am a very, very, I love playing fair and winning honestly. But when I was a little kid, absolutely win. If you're not cheating, you ain't trying. That was my motto when I was young. But now, absolutely would not cheat because there is a certain amount of pride knowing that you won honest and fair.
Yeah, I agree. All right. You've told an outrageous lie to a child.
Yeah, I'm a dad. Yeah.
What's your best lie or a good lie?
So yesterday, my daughter and I were fighting with pool noodles, as all good daughter-dad should do. And we're standing in the living room with, much to my wife's dismay, sword fighting with pool noodles. And I won diligently. And I told my daughter that, don't feel bad. I am the world champion 2 times over for pool noodle fighting. And I can actually show her some very good techniques that I learned when I was battling for my world championship.
All right. It's really the 2-time that takes it over the top. It's like, no, it wasn't satisfying enough to claim a title. I had to say that I was 2-time.
2-time world champion of pool noodle fighting. That sounds great.
I was gonna say it sounds really fun. It should be a thing.
I think it should be a thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, for all we know, you actually are the champion. It's just no one's ever actually organized it.
It was in the early adaptation. It was in the early 90s when they first came out. So the internet hadn't really taken off with televising it yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Vigil or VJack, your favorite fast food fries are from McDonald's.
VJack. Nope.
Do you have where's your favorite fast food fries from? Or are you not a fast food guy?
I'm not a fast food guy at all.
Okay.
Like my wife tries to keep me really healthy. On the road, it's hard to eat really healthy, but if I had my choice, like if you give me a good tuna ahi salad, that would be my preferred. Like I like fries as much as the next person, but the road can beat you up.
Yeah.
And to stay very, very healthy and full of energy, I try to have very good positive energy. You can't be sitting down and eating French fries and cheeseburgers and drinking a bunch of whiskey because you won't have the energy that you need to be your best.
Yeah. I was wondering because you are on the road a lot, and usually I know when I've been on the road a lot, it's been a lot of less than healthy stuff. So all right, maybe I'll try to eat healthier. Vigil or VJack, you have an embarrassing nickname or a nickname that you hate?
I do have a couple of nicknames, but none that I hate. So my old rental coordinator, Jordan, absolutely amazing. And Jordan used to call me the E-Train. And what often would be stated is Jordan would say, the E-Train doesn't stop for nobody. Just because when I would call up and put in piles and piles of orders, Jordan knew that the E-Train doesn't stop for nobody. The other title I have is the Big Red Selling Machine. My beard, I'm only 40 years old. I look like I'm much older. I just turned 40 this year. But rental years are a lot like dog years. 1 equals 7. So I look much, much older than I should because they're dog years. But yeah, the big red selling machine is the other one I've got. And the bearded sales coach was something that somebody gave me that sits on my Facebook page and webpage now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen that one.
Yeah.
All right. If you think about it though, E-Train, a train that doesn't pick up passengers doesn't stop at all. Doesn't seem great.
Yeah. Well, she meant it more like, trains.
If
you're
I
sitting
know what
on
she
the track,
means, but it's
it
like,
don't stop.
really
It
think
just
about it.
runs you over.
That's fair.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about some non-work stuff. Although it is kind of work. I've heard you talk a lot about the importance of finding your why.
Oh,
so, like, there's been a lot of points where it seems like you got a piece of that why, maybe. But when did you find your why, and how?
My why goes all the way back to when I had. So my mother, the school district, said to my mother, "There's something wrong with your kid." Like, to this day, and it's just the way it is. Like, I literally, like, if you sat there and if I drew a B and a 9,
yeah.
If I drew a B and a D, like, I have to sit and do this little business to know which is which on my keyboard. Like autocorrect's like, dude, you're on crack. Like, something's wrong with you. You do not know how to type. And they told my mother, he doesn't know the difference between a B, a D, a 9, or a 6. Like, something's wrong with your kid. So my mom took me down to CU Boulder, and my mom paid to get me tested because the school district was like, we can't have him in here. Like, he can't read, he can't write. His math is getting all messed up in his head. He's starting sentences with a period compared to ending them with a period. Yeah. And so they checked it all out. They were like, wow, you are going to be spending a lot of time down at the docks at the submarine station waiting for a bus because you are completely backwards. I'm like, absolutely. And they said, we can't have you in the normal schools because that isn't how your brain thinks. And when they told my mother, he can't go to normal school, my mother's first response was, well, he needs to. And they said, the teachers can't, like, you're not going to fix the level of dyslexia that he has in his brain. So he can't go to normal school. And my mom asked, which all good mothers do, what's he going to do for a career? He's got to go to a normal school. And they said, your son will never have a job that's normal. He can't do money because he doesn't know how to do money. He can't do math. He's never going to have any job that has reading or writing. And I told you, one of the biggest things is, we all know it. Everybody on this thing, we've all felt parental disappointment. When your mom's disappointed in you, your dad's disappointed in you. And I remember driving down the Boulder Turnpike as a little kid sitting in the front seat with tears rolling down my mother's face. And I said, are you mad? And she's like, no. And I said, what's going on? She goes, I'm just disappointed. And I don't think she was disappointed in me. It was just disappointed in the whole system that the school did, whatever. But I took it personal. And so my why is that I was misjudged, mislabeled, mispigeonholed on what I was capable of doing. And to this very day, I'll tell you who will determine your future. You. Sit down and read Oprah Winfrey's biography. Everybody counted her out. Sit down and look at Tony Robbins. Everybody would have counted him out. And I realized that the entire education system counted me out. And so I went all the way through, graduated from college, got all my stuff, and wanted to be a school teacher because, like, I knew my why right off the get-go. I did not want other kids getting pigeonholed into this is what you can and can't do with your life. Yeah. And I think it's great now that I'm as successful as I am because I've got a huge why. No one will ever tell you what your limitations are and what you can and can't do. You make the decision how much you wake up every morning and kick your own butt.
All right. Well, I will. It doesn't sound like that's changed through your career, so I can skip that question.
It's the truth. And when you got a big enough why, when you have enough leverage, nobody can stop you. The problem is too many people get distracted. You got to know why you get up every day. And if it's big enough, and it's not to make money. There's days my wife is pretty sure I'm an idiot. I mean, when you sit there and I for the ARA, the ARA has never cut me a check for what I do. And I'm okay with that. I realize it's my way of contributing to the universe and contributing to the industry. And
yeah,
now,
you mentioned all these podcasts that you're going and paying money to participate in. It's like, yeah, it doesn't sound like the best business move, but
no,
I'm not a business guy,
but at the exact same time as now, like I'll be speaking at Con Expo. I'll be speaking at the AED. I'll be speaking at Point of Rental. Like, I love the opportunities that I get to spread the message of finding your authentic self, finding what gets you out of bed every day. And the future, like right now, people don't realize it, with all the things that are going on with AI, there is always 100%. There is always 100%. There is always a counter culture. So as AI is in an image in the last 48 hours, everybody listening to this has seen an image and they said, that image is bullshit. I'm sorry, but that's the only word I can use. It's BS. That image is BS. And they know that it's fake and they're turned off by it. And then you realize that we look at other images and we want things that are authentic.
just authentic.
Authentic. Thank you. They want things that are authentic. They want things that are real. They want things that have flaws in them. And they want to know that it is not so produced and clean. Like even reality TV became scripted.
Yep.
And so we are dying for someone to go out and make mistakes and be real so that we don't feel like we're alone anymore. We want people who screw up. And here's the thing. You said it. Your favorite movies are where somebody screws up and they still overcome it. We all love that story, and the counterculture will not change. As AI makes things that are so perfect, people are going to start liking the imperfections because it lets them know that they're still human and that they're not alone.
All right. We are very simpatico on that. So I don't have anything to add. You said it so well. Jeez. All right. One of the things that we bring up at Point of Rental is that our CEO, Wayne, went to MIT. Now, not all of us can attend the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but you have an MIT that anyone can get into, I hear. Tell me about Elliott Vigil's MIT.
My MIT, and I wish it was my idea. Thank you, Brian. My MIT is the most important task, which I realize in the rental industry messes with people's heads because we're crisis managers. Your phone rings and you're sitting on a rental counter, you're sitting in a truck, you're a branch manager, whatever it is, your phone rings, and our job is to react. Help the customer, get it taken care of, jump on it, make it happen right now. And we all do that. The problem is that when I ask people, what should you be doing today? They all think it's wait for the phone to ring. It's not. Go out and find customers. Call up. If you're sitting on the rental counter, call up customers and thank them for their business. Reach out to customers. What projects do you have coming up that I could reserve a piece of equipment for you? You know who does that? Nobody. And so we sit here as a industry and we say, the phone's going to ring. And when that sucker rings, I'm going to jump. If I don't have the unit, if it's down short, if it's down hard, if it's unavailable, if it's scheduled for pickup, let chaos ensue. Or we could look at our inventory and say, I have 8. It's springtime. I don't know what the problem is. I have 8 dingoes sitting in my yard. Perfect. Pull up the rental history of who's rented dingoes over the last 6 months and call every one of them and let them know we've got some sitting. Do they have any upcoming projects? And we're creating orders rather than just taking orders. It's a different way of thinking. And so I am a huge proponent of MIT. What's the most important task you can do today? And every day I wake up, what can I do today that's going to make a difference rather than just become a victim of circumstance.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like I've heard of like internal locus of control versus like external locus of control. And it's like, you don't just focus on what you can control, and you can control all of these things. You control your actions.
I love
You
locus
can make
of
stuff
control.
happen. Awesome. Actually, you mentioned this other thing earlier. So you were talking about how you felt, you had spent so much time and so much energy and so much of your life on sales, but you also say that it's like necessary to be on your grind all the time to really succeed and stand out in this industry. How do you balance that when you're coaching people? How do you get them to understand the value of like being home for what's important and also being that person who's always kind of on for sales? Or is it possible to even do that?
I think it is. I think what most people do, I think people underestimate hardcore what they can do in a year. And they overestimate what they can do in a day. So I watch people and they say, well, if I wake up 30 minutes early every day and I go for a healthy walk, I drink water, and I sent out 5 outgoing calls to customers. 30 minutes, 20-minute walk, drink some water, make calls. 30 minutes early every day. What impact will that make? Then you do it for 365 days, and you realize that walk, that water, and 5 calls a day times 365 days means that you put out over 1,500 additional sales calls. And people sit there and they're
like, you were like more relaxed doing it too.
100%, because it's just part of your routine. So I sit there and I watch sales reps, and what they think is that the extra effort means they have to sacrifice their family or they have to sacrifice their livelihood. It doesn't. You have to find the time, and I'm going to tell you right now, go sit in a sales meeting, go jump in with a rep, go sit on the counter with somebody. And they're like, I don't have time to make outbound calls to reach out to customers. And you're like, totally agree. I know you're super busy. Sorry, I'm busy scrolling through TikTok. Sorry, I'm mindlessly going through Pinterest. And they don't realize that there's time, but they're frivolously wasting it. If you took 30 minutes a day and invested it in you, mind you, I didn't say work double down. I said, go for a walk and drink water. And all of a sudden you're feeling better. You're bringing more energy and you're producing better results. But the sales reps don't wake up early. They think that I'll sleep a little longer. They take an hour and a half lunch. They roll up to Starbucks. The rental coordinators take all their breaks and they do all their stuff. But when they're sitting there and nobody's watching, instead of saying, how can I go to the yard and see what's unavailable and how can we get that up to fill the orders? They sit at their desk and they let things happen rather than making them happen. You said it perfectly with locus of control. We can only control our attitude and our effort. And the problem is I watch way too many people. You see people where they say, the weather's bad, so I'm in a bad mood. I woke up late, so I'm in a bad mood. And all of a sudden, they let their attitude and their effort go out the window, and then they have a victim mentality, and they're not in control of their destiny or their livelihood.
Yeah, and like every once in a while, I am that person, so I don't want to be like,
hey, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying you got to be aware of it.
Yeah, you just need to catch yourself and be like, hey, no, this isn't what we do.
That's well put.
All right. Again, in one of your previous interviews with the Rental Journal podcast, you went over all the challenges facing the rental industry today, particularly from a sales perspective. Too much fleet. COVID conditions have increased demand, and it was hard to get stuff. Made us have a bunch of extra stuff in our stuff to rent, and now there's not as much demand, so it makes it a whole bunch harder. So it's like, as someone just serving the industry, I'm thinking, man, it sounds really terrible out there. Why stick around?
Everything has its ebbs and flows, its ups and downs. We are in an interesting time. It's not that there's not a lot of business. It's actually one of the best times because there's lots of opportunities. There's big projects. There's lots of little projects. There's infrastructure. There is projected to be even more. The rental industry, depending on who you look at, on a conservative side, 5% growth. Conservative. And if you look at some of the crazy ones out there where they're really reaching, 12% growth between 2025 and 2030. Now, if you see an industry that is either double the GDP or 10 times the GDP, you might want to sit down and say, wow, that's a hot market to be in. Now, the overfleeting is a terrible thing, but at the exact same time, it means get out and hustle. Every time I've gone out and I did interviews, I sat down with customers and I said, what's the number one thing that you look for? It's got to be rate, right? And they go, no. I'm like, but anytime somebody comes in, you tell them rate. I'm like, and they said, yeah, we tell them rate because they'll drop their prices because they don't know what we really want. I go, okay, so let's be like the Spice Girls. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And they said, I want amazing communication. Nobody can take care of everybody all the time. Communicate with me. Call me up and say, I can't fill that order. What can I do to help? Compared to the rental companies that say, thank you for the order. And then at 5 p.m., hey, that piece of equipment that you need at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning to offload your truck, sorry, we can't fill that order. But I put that order in 3 days ago. Yeah, and now that we're prepping for it, we don't have the fleet. Sorry, you can call somebody else. You've just killed that company.
Yeah.
Where if you're the smart one that says, hey, I don't have a forklift right now. Would you like me to call my competitors and try and find you one? I would rather you have a guarantee than I have an order that I think there's only a 50% chance that I can fill. That customer will respect the hell out of the fact that you're willing to hustle and call your competitors because you care. And right now, I told you, authenticity is everything. They want somebody who's genuinely going to care. And when all the rental companies are out there, the better your communication is, the more accurately you take care of your customers. They'll call me. I had people that would call me and they'd be like, Elliott, I know you don't sell XYZ. I know you don't sell tents. I know you don't sell dunk tanks. Yep. Who should I call? Because you're the only person I call. When you build that with your customers, you can do the revenue that I used to do.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a pretty good position to be in once.
Absolutely.
Especially as a sales guy.
But sales reps get to this thing where they're like, it's only about me and it's only about my money and it's only about my success.
Yeah.
If you care for somebody, they really understand that your heart's in the right place. They will always give you another shot. I was friends with guys over at H&E, Herc, Sunbelt, Sunstate. I would call up all of them and say, hey, I need you to help fill this order. None of them ever sent deals back to me. But yet my numbers went up and their numbers didn't.
Yeah, I want to come up with some like philosophical or something to base off of that. But yeah, I mean, hey, just the stuff you put out just tends to come back to you.
100%, Brian. You're spot on, brother.
All right. Let's see. Let's talk about something a little more fun. Let's talk about this beard. Have you always had it? How do you take care of it? Well, I'll just let you answer the first two before I get to all these other questions. Jeez.
So I was born with it.
Okay.
The doctor
That must
was
have been
jealous.
interesting for your mom.
Yep. I popped out and originally they thought it was chest hair, but then they realized it was attached to my chin. It has only gotten bigger. It used to be bright red and now it's turning full white. I have a regiment to care for it that includes washing it occasionally and combing it occasionally. But the good thing is it is very, very posh and thick. And yeah, I got really lucky with having a good beard. And my wife fell madly in love with it. And I remember the day I used to shave it off. So I would grow it out big. And then I would bleach it, and I would play Santa. Anybody who asks, I can give them great photos of me as Santa. I loved playing Santa, and I would go buy gifts and give them away. And during COVID, anybody who would welcome me, 2021 or 2020 and 2021, there wasn't mall Santas. There wasn't any of that. People didn't have money to pay for a Santa to come to their house. Anybody who said they needed a Santa to come to their house, I would do it as long as they told me everything that their kid want, and I was able to buy them some gifts. And I would show up, and it changed my life. There was families that had Down syndrome kids. There were families that had economic challenges. And when you give somebody hope, oof. And so after I bleached it, my beard was useless because it looked terrible. And
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so I would take a razor and shave the whole thing off on January 1st. And I have a lot of those pictures. And then I would grow it back. And by January 3rd, I had a full beard.
Okay. So my follow-up question is like, now that it feels like it's kind of your brand now. So is this something that you're a tradition you're going to continue, or is it like now I can't do that same thing? Luckily, your beard is turning white naturally, so
absolutely
you don't have to worry about bleaching.
Yeah, I can't. Pretty soon, I will be full Santa, and then I'll have to probably change my name to the rental sales Santa or something. Maybe you could help me out with some of that branding.
Maybe, yeah. Well, everyone likes Santa, so like it's not like you're going to hurt your brand at all with that.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I think it has a lot of upward potential. I think it'd be good to go on sales calls with reindeer or elves.
That's definitely a hook that no one else is going to bring.
All the rental companies have their color. There's the big blue company. There's the black and yellow company. There's the, green company. There's the kind of orangish company. Nobody has the red, green, and white company. That could be me. I could just be the rental guy that looks like Santa.
Yeah. Available lane. All right.
Okay.
Let's get back to coaching just a little bit. Like for sales, I've always heard of this because I try to stay out of sales. How often should you watch / listen to game tape, as you put it in sales? Is this something that like AI is useful to analyze, or is it something that you really have to go in and like listen to it / watch it yourself and evaluate yourself?
I think you need to watch game tape. It's amazing to me. So I had a sales rep that I worked with, and he realized that he didn't want to go in and sit on a sales call and be like, "Hi, can I take notes of what you?" He didn't want that. And so all of your phones have the memo button. So before he went into the sales calls, he would hit the memos button. I did the same thing. And I thought it was good because as I'm talking with you, and now they have those little things you can clip on your collar, where it allowed me to have a great conversation with you. And then I had voice memos of what we talked about. And I thought it was about information until I got in my truck and I listened to my sales calls. And you would realize that you made statements, comments, or somebody would start saying something and you didn't handle it right. Or you would say, "Listen, I know you don't want to rent from me," or "I know you're not." And you would just cue people up and give them ways to get rid of you and even encourage them to get rid of you. And I watched sales reps, like this one sales rep, every word out of his mouth was, "I'm sure you agree." And so he's like, too many sales reps stop by. "I'm sure you would agree you don't want more stopping by. I'm sure you would agree that our prices are too high. I'm sure you would agree." And so I get in the truck and I jokingly said to him like 5 times, he goes, "Why do you keep saying that?" I go, "Do you know that on that sales call, you said it 23 times? He's like, "No, I didn't." And I went, "Ready?" And he goes, I go, "When we get nervous, when we get into a moment, I have things. I watch my recordings. And I often say, last but not least." And it's not the last thing, and it's not the least thing. It's not even anywhere near it. Why did I say that? And I have to edit it out. And if you go and you do certain speeches, you realize people have a lot of things where they say, so, or ums. And as I started listening to myself, I'm like, man, I am not the best speaker. And the more you watch game tape, I don't think somebody else needs to listen to it. I think you do. You listen to your recordings, and guess what you do, Brian? You're like, man, I could probably tighten that up a little bit. And you get better. But imagine that you never once listened to one of your own podcasts, or you never had to edit it or clean it up. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results, and you're not making those little adjustments that level you up.
Dang, Elliott, I was doing that at the beginning, and now I'm thinking, oh man, now I need to go get back into it. It was so annoying, but it is tough to go through your own game tape and be like, oh my God, such an idiot. Stop screwing all this stuff up.
Well, don't beat yourself up on it. Just say, hey, I'm going to listen to this, and my goal is to walk away with one thing I could do slightly better. Now, if you're doing one or two of these per month, and you get 1 to 2% better every single month, a year from now, 2 years from now, like I said, people underestimate what they can do in a day, and they overestimate what they can do in a day, and they underestimate what they can do in a year. Stick with it. I guarantee you're going to sit there at the end. All of us started off as beginners and sucked. The worst ones are the people that keep sucking, and they get results. One of the crazy things that blows my mind is the guy's like, I'm a 35-year veteran. I'm a 35-year veteran. You can do the same stupid thing for 35 years. That doesn't mean you're an expert. There's lots of football players that played in the NFL for a number of years, and they never left the bench.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that say, I've done things for years. It doesn't mean you're good at it. And they're like, well, I get the results. Guess what? Even a blind squirrel can find a nut. I want somebody who has a learning and growth mentality that says, you know what? I can find ways to tighten up my game and elevate my company, elevate my revenue, and elevate my skills.
For sure. Okay, let's see. Since you are still putting out your own videos, how often do you go back and watch that game tape?
When I go through editing those videos, so to record a video and it's sitting down and scripting it, I have to map out the whole thing. I normally will do some trial runs on it. I'll normally do a couple of records that I end up just deleting. I'm like, I screwed up. Nope, I can't edit that part out. I went down a wormhole. Delete, gone. And it'll take me 4 or 5. Normally that process is about an hour. And then the editing, the finding the images, the putting in the text. I know you can do all that stuff with AI, but I like making it kind of fun and personal rather than what AI creates. And that normally takes me about an hour, hour and a half, depending on the length of the video and the amount of material I put in it. So a typical video that I put out, 2 to 3 hours worth of work that goes into them. And I normally record because I don't like taking away from my family. My favorite time to record is at 4 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And the best thing is the house is really quiet. My dogs aren't up. That's the fair. Neighbors aren't up. There is nothing happening. People are like, wow, your studio is really quiet. Nobody's awake at 4 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, I do love getting up early just so it's like you do have that just total silent time. It's like, oh, yes.
That felt great. Yeah. See, success leaves clues. You see it.
All right. Do you have any questions for me? You get one. I've asked you a lot, but you get one.
How did you end up with this gig?
What gig specifically? Just working at Point of Rental or doing this show?
Yes.
Well, I had a long career in a variety of places in marketing. I worked in higher education. I worked in sports. I actually worked in the Arena Football League doing communications for the Portland Thunder. And I came down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a higher education job. That one didn't work out. And my wife was like, we're not moving anymore. So you need to be looking for places here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And for a few months I was searching. I found point of rental, got a little. I had never heard of the rental industry before, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess they would need software for that. It does sound pretty complex. All right, well that sounds pretty fun. Took a little trial, and I've been here since. I started the podcast just because, I had my own little bubble, and it's like, all right, I'm super introverted, and I don't actually like. I feel really uncomfortable getting out and talking to people, but if I force myself to, then I will start being able to do that a little better, hopefully. And I actually feel pretty comfortable doing like small groups and one-to-one type interviews. But yeah, that's basically.
Well,
the
congratulations to
story
you. I think that's badass.
All right. Well, thank you. Now we're done with me. No more eyes on me.
Dang it.
Before we get to the 5 important questions, I need a top 5 list from you. So
Okay.
it's a segment we call Give Me 5.
Okay.
Not everyone seems to know the rules of a top 5 list.
Yep.
You need to start at number 5 and count down to number 1. Please do not give me your number 1 first. I have a bunch of suggestions for you, but do you have a top 5 ready for me?
Any topic in particular?
It can be literally anything. I just threw out some suggestions.
You give me one. You give me one, and I'll do it right.
Yeah, let's do a little preview of your whole thing, and let's do top 5 things sales teams could do today to improve themselves. Even though I know that you overestimate what you can do in a day.
Yeah. So yours is the top 5 things that sales teams could do today to improve themselves.
Yeah.
So number 5 is sharpen the saw. And so Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, the 7th habit is sharpen the saw. I realize that most sales teams do a regular regiment of redundancy. They do the same thing over and over and over again, and they expect different results. And when I ask sales team, when was the last time you read a sales book? When was the last time you rode with another sales rep? When was the last time you rode with a sales manager or asked a customer, why do you buy from me? Every one of them looks at me just like, hey? And they go out and they keep doing the same thing over and over, and they expect different results, which is the definition of insanity. That's number 5.
Okay.
Number 4 for me is prospect, prospect, prospect. I watch a ton of sales reps, and we have this understanding in our head that if I go out and build a book of business, my goal as a sales rep, as a sales team, as a company is to do $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month, $300,000 a month. There's this weird thing, and it's like a frog in boiling water. Is you put a frog in the right temperature of water, it'll just sit there. If the water's too hot, it immediately jumps out. But if you gradually bring the water up, the frog just gets comfortable and it dies. And I watch sales teams where they forget to prospect. The majority of companies that call me up say we have account managers. This sales rep, this salesperson, my sales team, they all have their core 20, 30, 40 accounts that does the bulk of their revenue, and they are no longer out hunting and searching for new accounts. They have become glorified order takers. It kills sales teams. My number 3 is that the sales reps fail to care. And what I mean by that is they don't know they don't go the extra mile of, tell me about you, Brian. Tell me what you love to do. Your wife, and obviously you wanted to be in education and you wanted to teach people what happened in your life. And do you have a dog? And what's your dog's name? And learning about the person in front of you, I watch sales reps and they genuinely fail to care. And when you don't care about your customers, they don't care about you. My number two one is probably going to be that the sales reps create a negative mindset because of one of two things. Either the mastermind alliance, which means you become who you surround yourself with. And companies oftentimes have sales reps that produce the numbers, but the problem is that sales rep is not a nice person. They're nasty, they're grumpy, they complain all the time. The company sucks, the manager sucks, our fleet sucks, the rates are bad, and they bring down the entire team on what is possible. And the mastermind alliance for me is a huge one for bringing the team down. A secondary part to that for the negative mindset is I watch too many sales reps where they let 1 week, 1 day, 1 order define what is possible. I had a day, and I remember I was pissed. I was in a truck. I was being driven from New York to Philadelphia. And in the truck, I got order after order after order, and I was just emailing them in. I'm like, oh, I'm a rock star, da 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 da. And I get to my destination, and my office says, we don't have any of those available. I don't have any of those scheduled for pickup. I can't deliver those. We don't have the trucking. My truck went down, and I just kept, like I was watching money just disappear. And I got in my own head of, why the hell do I work so damn hard when my company doesn't even want to fill the orders? And the truth is they wanted to fill the orders, but every day is a new day in the rental gig, and you got to get up and kick your own butt and start all over again. And then my number one thing, top, is mismanagement of time. This industry creates crisis managers, and I watch way too many sales reps. Their phone rings and they race over here to spec out a job. And their phone rings and they drive over here to pick up a propane bottle. And somebody calls them up and invites them out to lunch, and they race all the way down here. And they finish up their day, and you say, how many quality sales calls did you make? And they're like, oh my gosh, I was super busy. I don't want you to be busy. Do not be busy. That's not the goal. Being busy is great if you are an hourly employee. The boss comes by, are you busy? Yeah, boss, I'm busy. If you're getting paid commission, you don't get paid to be busy. You get paid to be productive. Nobody cuts you a commission check because you talked to 30 people. They cut you a commission check because you landed 30 deals. And I watch way too many sales reps where I ask, MIT, like you mentioned, what are you doing today to produce the results that you want? And how well do you manage your time? Are you getting up early? Are you putting in the extra effort? Or are you sitting under a tree? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to produce a video, and it's basically going to be, I'll give you a key phrase. I'll tell you what's the number one thing. And I'm asking you, Brian, what's the number one thing you need if you're going fishing? So if you and I are going fishing together, what's the number one thing you need? What are you going to bring?
I reckon I'm going to need some bait, probably.
Bait? Okay. What else are you going to bring?
I'm not a fisherman.
It's okay. So bait, a pole, some lures, maybe bring a boat, all those things. I'm going to tell you what you need more than anything.
Okay.
Fish.
Touche.
And so I watch all these sales reps, and the problem is they don't spend time where there are opportunities. If I'm going to take a break, I realize when I would take a break as a sales rep, I didn't go sit under a tree because there's nobody under the damn tree. I would go sit in a contractor supply parking lot. I would go sit someplace where customers are at. I would go eat lunch at places where I knew contractors would be, because proximity is power. Don't waste your time on things that do not contribute to the end result. So my number one thing is stop wasting time and better manage your time and effort. I would rather a sales rep work a 6-hour day that is productive than a 12-hour day that involves TikTok and involves sitting under a tree, sipping coffee, and complaining and delivering propane bottles. That is a wasted day to me.
Yeah, I mean, if they're using TikTok, then they're then they're building their own secret brand to become.
Or there's the one who would just doom scroll.
Well, I'm figuring that's what most people are doing. I'm just trying to pretend they're coming for your consulting thing, and they're trying to get that $1,000 from TikTok whenever people
And I wish
actually
them luck.
watch their video.
Anybody who wants my gig, game on. Until you know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur, everybody they're all entrepreneurs until they understand what it's like to pull $100,000 out of your bank so that you don't have to go bankrupt.
Yep. I was going to say, I really don't want to become an entrepreneur.
No. And the ones that do is because they think they want the freedom until they're given the freedom, which comes responsibility.
Yep. I see all of the responsibility that's coming with it. And I'm like, too much responsibility.
All right. So here's the one you really wanted to know. Top 5 Santa things.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go. What are the top 5 things that you need to be Santa from an expert Santa over here?
Absolutely. Number 5, counting down, is you need the scent. So I literally went on to Amazon and got the scent that smelled like fresh baked cookies and like gingerbread cookies and things. And I'll tell you, the funniest thing is when you walk into somebody's house and they say, you even smell how Santa should smell. Santa should smell
we
like
do really
cookies.
remember, like, I think smell is the sense that's closest tied to memory or whatever. So it's like
100% correct. That's why you need the scent. The number two one is you got to have the boots. The boots are critical. You got to have the boots. You got to make sure that the boots are the real McCoy. Don't be showing up in tennis shoes or flats or stupid stuff like that. Kids will look at your boots and they'll know right off the beginning whether or not you got real Santa boots on. Part of that is you got to have the right Santa outfit. The coat, the jacket, the fur, all the way down to the gloves. It's got to be authentic. Number two.
Wait, what's authentic? How am I supposed to know what's authentic? You go to North Pole yourself?
No. So how often do you see somebody where they just wear like the cheap red,
Yeah.
If you want, Santa always does that kind of darker red. It's nicely embroidered. My wife made my Santa outfit. Your belt's got to be the real leather, thick, giant belt with a huge buckle on it. Kids can tell when you're wearing plastic. Yep. And they want the real McCoy. And I can tell you right now, kids are sticklers for the details because they're trying to see if you're real.
For sure.
The number 2 one is you got to have the laugh. And the best thing you can do is you want to make sure that you use the child's name when you're talking to them because they know you have the list that states if they're naughty or if they're nice. And last but not least, you'd better have the damn beard because every kid will give it a tug because they know that the cotton balls are fake. And anybody who tugs on a beard like this, they know you can't fake a real beard, which is a commitment in and of itself. And if they know you're committed to being Santa, then you're committed to care.
All right. Wow. You're great at delivering lists. I just want to make you I just want to have you deliver lists all day. But now we got to get to the 5 important questions. We're like way over time. I'll probably split this into 2 episodes, but that's great. I am enjoying it. I hope you don't have it.
I am enjoying it too.
5 important questions.
5 important questions?
5 important questions.
All right. So the 5 important questions. What would you say is your greatest success in life? We like to start off with an easy one.
My greatest success in life, 26 years of marriage. I've got an amazing daughter. I've got an amazing life. But I'll tell you right now, to build a successful marriage that takes care of the children, takes care of your business, takes care of your health, and can survive the things that we've been through, you got to be pretty damn, that's a lot of effort.
All right. That is the correct answer always whenever you are married. The correct answer is that one.
Good. I was worried I was wrong.
Number 2, what is your greatest fear?
I have a fear of spiders. And like I can hold I can hold a tarantula, I can hold whatever. 3 times in my life, I've been bitten by 2 black widows, and in Las Vegas, I got bitten by a brown recluse, and they will scar you for your life. Like it rots away your flesh. So if I see the right kind of spider, little ones, like I'm not afraid of spiders, but if I see one of those poisonous ones, I'll let you know. I'm the guy who says, now that one, he ain't getting away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I've had enough of these bites. If you've taken 3, I think that you have the excuse to be like, no.
And the crazy thing, because it's poison, they can't do anything for you. It's not venom, it's poison.
Yeah.
So like you go to the hospital and all they say is, ride the storm out, baby. Good luck to you. Like it really made me mad. Like I'm in the hospital, I'm vomiting, I can barely breathe. They're like, we can give you some water. We can hook you up to an IV, but there's not anything they can do for you when you're poisoned like that. It really made me mad.
It's like, all right, but don't send me a bill then.
Oh, of course they bill. Oh, they were like, oh, no. You walk through the door, bro.
All right. If you could tell first date in the industry, Elliott, one piece of advice, what would you tell him?
It gets better.
I was going to say, it sounded like you learned a lot fairly early, but it's like maybe you would have learned it like a few weeks earlier.
Yeah, I would say it gets better. I think most people, when I was part of Ahern Equipment, I was part of a study, and the company, a lot of companies, this industry as a whole has a massive level of turnover. It is a tough industry. It's tough. The people that love it. And the people that come in, it's hard to understand why somebody would love the transaction, the long days. It's like going into the hospitality industry. You got to like know what you're doing. And I realized that once people settle into it and they see what the passion is, just like you, once it gets under your skin and it gets into your blood veins, it's a hell of a lot of fun and it's quite the adventure. I think that most people, they quit before they reach that point where they really start enjoying it. Because it can be a tough industry if you show up at the wrong time.
For sure. Yeah. It's that meme with like person digging through the ground and, they have the diamonds and there's a person walking away just before they get to the diamonds. And it's like, don't be that guy.
Do you know where that's from?
I do not. I've seen it for so many years, but I don't remember.
Perfect. So the book you're going to read is called Acres of Diamonds. And that's what that image is from. And you're going to do your research on Acres of Diamonds and you're going to realize it's a national best-selling book, and it's going to teach you an absolutely amazing lesson in life.
All right. Well, I've made a note, and I will add it to my reading list.
Perfect.
All right. Number 4. What is your most embarrassing moment in the industry?
My most embarrassing moment in the industry was probably my first week. Where my manager said, if you want to learn the equipment, just go out and play with it. And I'm walking around in the yard and a service tech, a guy in the yard says, don't just kick the tires and walk around the equipment, go in and get some keys and drive the equipment. That's the best way to learn it. I wasn't certified, no classes, no nothing. And I climbed up in a 19-foot scissor, drove it right, drove it left, drove it around. And my first week getting out of the scissor lift, and I didn't know how to get, like scissor lifts got that little opening and the chain and the bar, and I'm trying to get out. And so I'm holding onto that foam pad, and as I'm walking out with my feet ahead of me, the pad spins, my hands slip, and I landed my back on the diamond plate of the 19-foot scissor, and it winded me, and I ended up slipping a disc in my back. Excruciatingly painful. And you know what you can't do in your first week worth of work? File a workman's comp claim.
Yeah.
So I just sucked it up, buttercup, and it was quite embarrassing that my brand new boots that were supposed to protect my shoes got stuck on the step and forced me to get hurt in my first week on the job. So I started off like in so much damn pain. It was
I
not
was
a
gonna
proud
say, that
moment.
sounds pretty miserable.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable.
And then you're just you're mentally yelling at the boots. I got you to protect me, not you can't
And
turn on me.
you're laying on a scissor lift looking up at the sky, and you're in excruciating pain, and you're like, just like, what, somebody's gonna walk over and they're like, seriously, you've been here for like 2 days and you're already hurt? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? And you're like, oh man, this is not a good day.
At least you were hurt instead of just like, laying down trying to hide from people.
100%.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you've been sentenced to death. Apparently, having a safety incident on your first week of work is now a capital offense. It sucks, but it's a weird international law now. What is your last meal and why?
So I'm less worried about what the last meal is and who's it with. I would like to sit down. I realize that for me, all of my happiest moments in life, like, I want to reminisce with the people that make life amazing. For me, I've eaten lots of good food, and I'll tell you the things that I remember. I can have a slice of pizza with the right person, and I don't give a crap what the pizza was about. It's the best meal you've ever had. And I've also sat down and had filet mignon and foie gras and lobster tails with the wrong person, and it would completely ruin a meal. So I will have a grilled cheese sandwich with some chips and a seltzer, and I would like to sit with my closest friends.
Okay. Are we going to name check any of them here, or they're not
My
listening?
wife needs to be there. My
Okay.
daughter needs to be there. And a few mentors and friends need to be there. Absolutely.
All right. I guess I think we should make them all have grilled cheeses as well. So
I make the most wicked grilled cheese you'll ever have because my wife bakes the bread. I do some really good Gruyere. I make
Nice.
I've mastered the grilled cheese to a pretty funky level.
all right. Well, now I'm going to have to ask you for your grilled cheese recipe at a different time.
Okay.
All right. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I would say
This is an instant change. You don't have to gradually change yourself 1% over a year or anything.
Yeah.
This is like you can snap and make it happen.
if I was going to snap and make it happen, I would get rid of my moments of doubt. I think it plagues a lot of people. It plagues me too. There's days that I put in a ton of effort, and if I don't get immediate results, I start having doubt that I'm doing the right thing or that I'm going the right path or whatever. And every damn time something ends up happening. I told my wife it's taken me a long time and I still don't have it right. It's throwing rocks into the middle of a lake and letting the ripples go out. You never know when they're going to come back.
Yeah.
But you got to have faith. And when I have my days where I doubt that things are going to turn around or that my efforts will pay off, there's customers that I work with and I'm like, well, I'm never getting that guy. And sure enough, a year later, hey, I know it's been a while since we've talked, but let's book a deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I had just about given up faith that this would transpire, and it just takes times.
Yep.
And never lose faith.
All right. If there's one thing you could change about the industry, again, snap change, what would it be?
That the industry as a whole, not everywhere, but 80 to 90% of the industry treats sales as a commodity. They treat the equipment as a commodity. They treat the people as a commodity. I watch equipment as a commodity. They treat the people as a commodity. I watch companies all the time and they're like, I just want to hire the number one guy or the number one companies all the time. And they're like, I just want to hire the number one guy or the number one gal. I'll bring them over to the company and my numbers will go through the roof. And I also see companies that are like, well, if we're going to hire 10 sales reps.
I was going to say it's
And at the
it's a
end,
numbers
companies
game,
all the
but
time,
for-
and they're like, I just want to hire the number one guy or the number one gal. I'll bring them over to the company and my numbers will go through the roof. And I also see companies that are like, well, if we're going to hire 10 sales reps and at the end people, they just burned them all because they weren't willing to invest in them. If you treat people like a commodity and you're not willing to invest in them, don't be surprised if you don't get anything back on your investment. And I have all these companies they call up. They're like, oh yeah, I've hired like 10 people and they all sucked. I'm like, great. What did you do to help them? What do you mean? I hired them to do the job. I pay them commission. Every one of us needs help with something. Well, they said they were a sales professional. Yeah, because they needed a job.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're not going to come in and say, hey, I'm a complete idiot. I don't know if I'm going to do this job well. They're going to oversell themselves. And your job is to give them the resources, give them the skills, invest in your people. It's amazing to me that I watch companies, rental companies, equipment companies, they spend more money on buying new fleet than they do on training their staff, coaching their staff, building a culture that people want to be part of. And if you ask the number one complaint, what's the hardest thing in the rental industry? Finding good people. But yet they won't invest in the people. And it just and we say it as an industry. It's not me. I train sales reps because I know it because I was a part of this. And if I'm not trying to fix it, then I think I'm a hypocrite. I even fix it for free. But I watch all of these companies and they say, it's hard to find drivers. I'm like, perfect. Do you ever have driver appreciation days? What? Do you ever have days where you go out? I bought all of my drivers. When they came out with the Yeti coolers, the small ones that were like a lunchbox size.
Yeah.
I bought every one of my drivers one of those at $80 a piece. My wife was ready to murder me. We had 12 drivers.
Yeah.
I put in a
expensive.
Leatherman. I put in a flashlight. I put in a little thermos. I put in all this stuff. Each one of them cost me $120, and I gave it away to appreciate all my drivers.
I was going to say now going back to football, it sounds like you're a quarterback and you're taking care of your offensive line. And
Take care of your offensive line. We all see that. But I watch companies, and I think the owners of the companies don't realize that the fleet will not move itself unless you invest in the people to create the solutions. The equipment is not the solution. Working for Ahern Equipment, Don Ahern decided he was going to bring in tons of these cranes, carry deck cranes. Every branch got 2 or 3 carry deck cranes. Nobody put them on rent because guess what we didn't get? Training and support. And it was a huge flop. The company wasted millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on carry deck cranes because nobody knew what the hell to do because we missed one key element. The people that make it happen. And I watch to this very day, I watch people where they say, hey, we're going to go to the big equipment shows and we're going to buy a ton of equipment. And they never take the time to invest in the people that are going to fix it, put it on rent, give it to a customer, train the customer. Like they don't realize all these new tools aren't worth anything without the people behind it.
it's true. I mean, yeah, even you can't really use the item out. Who's going to rent it from you if there's no one to operate it, or I don't know.
Yeah, you're going the right way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Tell me a secret about the rental industry, something that not enough people know about.
The amount of money that can be made. Like it warps my mind when you see all of these companies, OEMs, dealerships, and the dealerships are like, there's so much money in dealerships. There's so much money in dealerships. If you go, and we're so slow as an industry to pick stuff up. You're going to leave, Brian. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to go driving around Dallas-Fort Worth this weekend. And you're going to drive by a car dealership. And you're going to realize right next to all their brand new cars, Ford dealership, brand new cars, they have a used car lot that's just as big, possibly with more cars in it, with better banners and more support. And you're going to be like, why would you have all those used cars there? Because they realize they make better margins on the used than they do on the new. And the dealerships in the equipment world, they go out and they're focused on selling the new, which looks phenomenal, but they're making 8 to 10% margins on it. That's assuming nothing breaks down and there's no warranty that eats up their margins in a heartbeat. And they don't realize how much money they can make in rental. And then they can turn around and then sell the asset used and make all of that money as well, because they all play the game where I don't need to do anything but sell the equipment and then service it, where rental's a lot more transactional, but it's already proven you can make 5 and 10%, or 5 or 10 times more on your investment in rental than you can in just being a dealership. But people get set in their ways and they never look at rental as an option. And what's actually ended up happening, and I'll give you a quick story. You go out and you're starting Brian's Landscaping. And Brian's Landscaping goes out and you don't have a lot of money. And your wife says, what are you going to do? And you say, I'm going to go rent equipment. So you go down to a rental company. If they've got whatever brand and you rent that brand, a Toro brand, a Komatsu brand, a Kubota brand, Caterpillar, whatever it is, and you keep going back there for 5 years, when it comes time for you to buy a piece of equipment and you're going to buy one new, you're going to buy that brand because you're comfortable with it.
I feel like it's maybe one of those things where, dang it, I keep forgetting the exact quote, but it's like it's often ignored because it looks like hard work or something like that.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
spot
it's
on. You said it exactly right.
And it's like rental seems like a lot of hard work, and it's like I think that scares a lot of people off, which means it makes it, so you can also make a bunch of money.
You can make a bunch of money. And it's only going to get bigger as people look at, they're going to realize I need more flexibility. Like, it's not only can you make a lot of money on it, but if you sat there and I said, hey, right now, car ownership is going down because of all the Uber drivers. People are like, look, it's just too convenient. And I can catch an Uber or just, catch a bus or do whatever, rather than have all the liability, all the car payments, all the insurance payments, all that stuff. It's easy.
All right. Well, you clearly have a wealth of insight in both sales and the rental industry. I want to remind people here at the end with a quick little summary of like, who are the people who should be going to elliottevigil.com and connecting with you?
I would love for anyone who's in sales or looking to go into it. I have a lot. I've worked with equipment manufacturers. I've worked with dealerships. I've worked with rental houses. I've worked with tool rentals, and I've even worked with contractor supplies. I can give you 1,000 references. That's not hyperbole, like literally 1,000 references of that. With all of my experience and how much I hate sales training, I realized it was my duty to create one that got results. It is very concise. It is a very full day. And if I don't get results, I've failed you. And my goal, which is a terrible business model, is to get results after one training so you never have to book me again. Now, the good thing is a lot of people book me multiple times because they got such amazing results from it. But if I do my job right, you don't need to book me again because you got everything you asked for.
And also maybe people just like having you around, and it's like, hey,
let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy.
This guy's fun. And soon you'll be international. So you'll have not only all of those different like industries and different people within the industry, but you'll also have gone overseas and seen all those people too.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Elliott, for chatting today. Thank you to our production team out there for getting this out there when we get it out there. And thanks to everyone out there watching on YouTube or listening wherever you're listening. Share the podcast with your friends, and then we can all talk about Elliott and our other guests behind their backs later.
Outstanding. Brian, I appreciate you tremendously. Have an absolutely amazing weekend, and thanks for all you do for the industry and the value you bring.